you have ever watched my show, you have heard by now I am a baby oil specialist. Buy this for your guy, lady.
This is Sean Combs' connection to Steve Harvey. Everyone on the internet are making, quote, Steve Harvey and the diddler jokes. That's not me making the joke. That's the internet making that joke. Others say...
So now the story is that Steve Harvey and Diddy have been in a relationship.
Steve Harvey is attempting to silence me right now. Everyone's got to look up Steve Harvey baby oil since he clearly doesn't want people looking that up. So Steve Harvey was facing a lot of criticism for being involved with Diddy and because he's weirdly obsessed with baby oil.
What if I told you that the $1 million smile we see every night on Family Feud is nothing more than a carefully crafted mask hiding a reality so dark, it makes Hollywood's biggest scandals look like a Sunday school picnic? We've all heard the jokes. The internet is currently on fire, buzzing with one name and one name only, Steve Harvey. But this isn't about a missed pageant winner or a funny contestant. This is about the baby oil specialist himself finally getting caught in a web he can't joke his way out of. The rumors are flying, the receipts are leaking, and the diddler connection is becoming too loud to ignore. But the real dagger? It isn't coming from a federal agent or a rival comedian. It's coming from his own flesh and blood. Brandy Harvey has reportedly decided that enough is enough. She's tired of the family man persona. She's tired of the silence. Is she about to confirm the DL rumors that have haunted Steve's career for decades? Did Steve Harvey really trade his biological family for a seat at the most infamous tables in the industry? Grab your popcorn and lock your doors, because we are diving deep into the freak-offs, the heated oil, and the ultimate betrayal. Steve Harvey, the game is over. And the truth? Well, it's much messier than you think. The world of celebrity gossip is a dark and twisted labyrinth where the walls are made of non-disclosure agreements and the floors are slick with secrets. When we talk about Steve Harvey, we are talking about a man who has built a multi-million-dollar empire on the foundation of being the ultimate moral authority for the black family. He wrote the books on how to act like a lady and think like a man, yet his own personal history looks like a script rejected from a daytime soap opera for being too unrealistic. The current climate in Hollywood is a volatile powder keg, and the match was lit the moment the federal authorities raided those mansions in Los Angeles and Miami. Ever since the public saw those images of private jets and mysterious blacked-out SUVs, every single person who ever stood next to a certain music mogul has been looking over their shoulder. Steve Harvey is no exception, and the internet has decided that his past comments are no longer just harmless jokes from a veteran comedian. We have to look at the timeline of events because the coincidence is becoming impossible to ignore in this digital age. Steve Harvey has spent years cultivating this image of a suit-wearing, mustache-sporting mentor who tells you how to live your life and how to treat your partner. But while he was on stage telling you how to be a better person, what exactly was he doing behind the closed doors of those exclusive industry parties? The rumors of Steve being on the DL or living a secret double life are not new to the streets, but they have never been this loud or this specific. The term down low has been whispered in the corridors of the entertainment industry for decades, usually involving men who maintain a traditional family image while indulging in secret affairs. For Steve, the accusations are starting to pile up like a stack of unpaid bills that he can no longer ignore. People are now revisiting every single episode of his talk show with a magnifying glass, and what they are finding is absolutely chilling. There was a time when we thought Steve was just being a wild comedian when he spoke about his love for baby oil, but in the context of the current federal investigations, those words have taken on a much more sinister meaning. He didn't just mention it once, he made it a recurring theme, a personality trait, almost like a calling card for those in the know. The internet investigators are claiming that this was a signal, a way to identify himself to a certain crowd without actually saying the words out loud. When you look at the footage of him talking about warming up the oil and how it goes with everything, you have to wonder if he was laughing with us or laughing at us for being so oblivious. It is the kind of hidden in plain sight behavior that sensational investigators live for. But the real fire started when his biological daughter Brandy Harvey allegedly began moving in a way that suggests she is ready to burn the whole house down. Brandy and her twin sister Carly have always been the quiet ones in the Harvey clan, often overshadowed by the flashy lifestyle of their step-siblings. But silence often hides the deepest resentment, and Brandy has been dropping clues like breadcrumbs in a dark forest. The narrative of the perfect father began to crumble the moment Brandy started talking about the sacrifices her mother made while Steve was out chasing fame. While Steve was winning $50 comedy competitions and eventually climbing the ladder to the top of the industry, his first family was reportedly struggling just to stay afloat. This isn't just about a man who worked hard. This is about a man who reportedly chose the industry over his own flesh and blood. The rumors suggest that Brandy has had enough of seeing her father's legacy built on a lie, especially when that legacy involves a man who might have been involved in the same freak-off culture that is currently taking down the biggest names in music. Think about the tension in that household when the news broke about the thousands of bottles of oil found in a certain mansion. If your father had spent years identifying as a specialist in that exact substance, wouldn't you start asking questions? Anonymous sources close to the family are claiming that there have been heated confrontations behind the scenes between Steve and his biological children. They claim that Brandy has been questioning where he was during those years when he was finding himself in the industry. Was he really just working on his stand-up routine, or was he being initiated into a lifestyle that requires a high level of secrecy and a very specific type of lubrication? The level of betrayal we are talking about here is astronomical because it involves a man who has made hundreds of millions of dollars by telling other people how to be honest and loyal. If the rumors are true, and Steve Harvey was indeed part of the same underground circle as the disgraced mogul, then we are looking at the biggest fall from grace in the history of television. The public reaction has been a mix of total shock and a feeling of "I knew it all along." People are digging up old interviews where Steve's ex-wives hinted at things that seemed confusing at the time but make perfect sense now. His second ex-wife, Mary Shackelford, was very vocal about the demons Steve was dealing with, but at the time, everyone dismissed her as a bitter ex-woman looking for a payday. Now, people are going back to her old videos and realizing she might have been the first whistleblower. Mary spoke about a side of Steve that the public never saw, a side that was obsessed with control and had a very specific set of requirements for his personal life. If you connect her old claims with the new rumors about his DL activities, a very consistent and very disturbing picture begins to emerge. It's the picture of a man who used his fame as a shield to hide his true desires from a world that would never have accepted him as a moral leader if they knew the truth. The sensational part of this is how the internet has taken these clues and turned them into a viral storm that Steve's PR team can't seem to contain. Every time he posts a video of him smoking a cigar or wearing a flashy suit, the comments are flooded with questions about the oil and the parties. He is losing control of the narrative, and when you lose control of the narrative in Hollywood, you lose everything. We have to ask ourselves why a man who has everything would risk it all for these alleged secret encounters. But the industry is a powerful drug, and it requires a price that most people aren't willing to pay. Some say the price for Steve was his soul, and others say the price was his relationship with his biological children. Brandy Harvey's alleged involvement in exposing this is the final nail in the coffin because you can lie to the world, but you can't lie to the children who saw you leave. The tension between the biological Harveys and the new Harvey family led by Marjorie has been a slow-burning fuse for over a decade. While Lori Harvey is being pushed as the new it girl of the industry, Brandy and her siblings have been pushed to the sidelines. This imbalance of power within the family is exactly what leads to someone finally speaking out. Brandy doesn't need the industry fame. She has already seen what it did to her father. As we move deeper into this investigation, we have to look at the specific connections between Steve and the parties that are currently under federal scrutiny. There are claims that Steve wasn't just a guest. He was a regular attendee who felt so comfortable in that environment that he brought the lingo back to his daytime show. That level of boldness usually comes from a man who thinks he is untouchable. But nobody is untouchable in 2026. Not even Steve Harvey. The walls are closing in, and the DL rumors are no longer just whispers in barbershops. They are being analyzed by major news outlets and legal commentators. The question isn't whether Steve was involved. The question is how much does Brandy really know and how much of it is she willing to put on the record to save her own peace of mind. The fallout is already starting to manifest in subtle ways. Advertisers are reportedly looking at their contracts, and there are whispers that the networks are preparing a plan B in case more concrete evidence comes out. Steve's legacy as a mentor and a father figure is hanging by a thread, and that thread is currently in the hands of the daughter he reportedly neglected. If Brandy Harvey decides to drop the full receipts, it won't just be a scandal, it will be a cultural earthquake. We are talking about the potential exposure of a man who has been a staple in black homes for 30 years. The sense of betrayal from the community would be unprecedented. They didn't just watch him, they trusted him with their family dynamics and their relationship advice. The investigation into the DL affairs isn't just about his orientation. It's about the hypocrisy of a man who preached one thing while reportedly practicing something entirely different in the shadows. It's about the power dynamics of Hollywood and how celebrities use their influence to silence those who know the truth. But Brandy Harvey isn't a stranger who can be bought off with a settlement. She is a Harvey, and she knows where all the bodies are buried. We are seeing a shift in how these celebrities are being held accountable. The days of hiding behind a funny mustache and a sharpsuit are over. The public wants the truth, and they want it now. The rumors about Steve Harvey and the baby oil are just the tip of the iceberg, and as we look beneath the surface, the darkness is becoming more apparent every single day. Every clue, every old clip, and every silent look from his biological children points to a story that is finally ready to be told in full, regardless of who it hurts or what it destroys in its path. This is the beginning of the end for the family man persona, as the ghosts of his past are finally catching up to him in a way he never anticipated. Hard reality of the leaked reports and the anonymous whispers that have turned this into a full-scale digital investigation. While this video established the history of neglect and the suspicious commentary, we now enter the territory of the alleged leaked details that are currently circulating in the deepest corners of the internet. These aren't just vague accusations anymore. We are talking about specific dates, specific locations, and specific freak-off logistics that have Steve Harvey's name written all over them in invisible ink. The narrative moving through the industry is that a certain master list exists, a list that federal agents have been piecing together like a puzzle made of shattered glass. Sources claiming to be close to the investigation have suggested that several high-profile TV hosts were not just casual friends with the music mogul in question, but were active participants in the hospitality aspect of these events. When the term baby oil specialist is brought up in a court of law, it ceases to be a joke and starts to look like a job description for someone who knew exactly how to facilitate an environment of excess. The spending habits associated with these alleged secret lives are where the paper trail begins to get interesting. Investigative commentators are pointing to massive, unexplained withdrawals and offshore accounts that suggest a level of hush money being paid out over the last decade. They claim that Steve Harvey has spent a fortune keeping his DL affairs out of the headlines, using a network of high-powered attorneys to intimidate anyone who tried to speak the truth. This isn't just about a man having a secret. It's about a man using his wealth to build a fortress of lies. Then there is the matter of the anonymous whistleblower who claims to have worked as a high-end security detail for these private parties. This source has described scenes that sound like something out of a Roman orgy, where the rules of traditional society were suspended and the elite could indulge in their darkest fantasies without fear of exposure. The source specifically mentioned a well-known father figure of the industry who was surprisingly enthusiastic about the supply of lubricants and the privacy of the back rooms. The public reaction to these specific leaks has been a mixture of horror and morbid curiosity. On platforms like TikTok and X, users are creating side-by-side comparisons of Steve's advice videos and the descriptions of the parties. They are noticing a pattern of behavior that suggests a man who is terrified of his own reflection. Why would a man who is happily married to a woman he calls his queen need to constantly overcompensate by talking about his masculinity and his old-school values? In the world of sensational commentary, overcompensation is the ultimate tell. The controversy deepens when you look at the lavish spending on his stepchildren compared to the reported financial gatekeeping he exercised with his first family. While Lori Harvey is draped in diamonds and flying on private jets to meet the world's most famous bachelors, the rumors suggest that Brandy and Carly had to fight for every scrap of recognition. This economic disparity within the family is being cited as the primary reason for the current internal collapse. It's the classic story of the new family getting the riches while the old family gets the trauma. If we look at the corruption aspect of these allegations, it goes beyond just secret affairs. There are whispers of industry trades, where access to certain shows and networks was exchanged for silence or participation in these underground circles. The investigative narrative suggests that Steve Harvey's dominance on daytime television wasn't just a result of his talent, but a reward for being a team player in a system that protects its own. This is the kind of systemic abuse of power that makes the public lose all faith in their icons. Public reactions have moved from the comments section to the streets. People are starting to boycott the brands associated with the Harvey name, citing his alleged hypocrisy as the breaking point. The DL rumors have hit a particularly sensitive nerve within the community because of the way Steve positioned himself as a defender of traditional values. To find out that the man telling you to protect your household might have been destroying his own in the most scandalous way possible is a pill that many simply refuse to swallow. The anonymous sources continue to feed the fire, claiming that Brandy Harvey has a digital vault of messages and photos that prove her father's involvement in these secret circles. They say she isn't just looking for an apology, she's looking for a total reckoning. Imagine the power of a daughter who has been sidelined for 20 years finally holding the keys to the kingdom. If she releases the contents of that vault, the baby oil specialist will have to find a way to lubricate his exit from public life entirely. There is also the Cat Williams factor. When Cat went on his legendary rant about the gatekeepers and the unnatural things people do for fame, everyone laughed. But now, in the light of the Diddy investigation and the Harvey rumors, Cat looks like a prophet. The public is starting to realize that the crazy people in Hollywood are often the only ones telling the truth, while the respectable ones are the ones with the most to hide. Steve Harvey's silence on the Cat Williams situation was deafening at the time, and now we might finally know why. The reports of leaked emails suggest that there was a frantic effort to keep certain names out of the initial Diddy indictments. Sources claim that Host A and Host B were mentioned in thousands of pages of discovery, and that these hosts are currently working with crisis management teams to prepare for the inevitable. The sensationalism of this cannot be overstated. We are talking about the potential collapse of a television dynasty that has defined the last 2 decades of entertainment. The rumors of the DL affairs also touch on the nature of his third marriage. Some investigators claim that Marjorie herself was aware of Steve's hobbies and that their marriage is more of a business arrangement than a romantic one. They suggest that Marjorie's own controversial past was used as leverage to ensure her loyalty, creating a mutually assured destruction pact that has kept the secret safe until now. If the foundation of the marriage is built on secrets, then Brandy's decision to speak out is the earthquake that will level the entire structure. As we analyze the public reactions, we see a generational divide. Older fans of Steve Harvey are struggling to believe that their favorite host could be involved in something so freaky, while the younger generation, who grew up with the internet, sees the clues as obvious. This divide is creating a fascinating social experiment where the truth is being debated in real time across every social media platform. The consensus, however, is shifting toward a guilty verdict in the court of public opinion. The Heated Oil song that Steve posted on TikTok back in 2020 is now being viewed as a massive blunder. What was intended to be a light-hearted moment of old man humor is now being used as Exhibit A in the case against him. Investigative YouTubers are breaking down the lyrics, the timing, and the facial expressions, claiming that Steve was mocking the public by flaunting his specialty right in front of their faces. It's the kind of arrogance that usually precedes a massive fall. The corruption of the family man brand is nearly complete. When you spend 30 years telling people how to live, you don't get the luxury of a private life when that life involves alleged illegal or highly immoral activities. The public feels a sense of ownership over Steve Harvey's morality because he sold it to them for $19.99 a book. If that morality was a lie, then every single fan is a victim of a massive. The anonymous source who claimed Steve was slanging wood in the industry has now reportedly been joined by 2 others who are willing to come forward if a certain legal threshold is met. These individuals claim to have been part of the logistics team for these secret encounters, and they describe a world of non-disclosure agreements and burner phones that would make a spy novel look tame. They say Steve's involvement wasn't accidental, it was habitual. The level of detail in these leaked reports is what makes them so terrifying for the Harvey camp. They don't just say he was there. They describe the scent of the rooms, the temperature of the oil, and the specific types of guests that Steve allegedly preferred. This level of granular detail is hard to fake, and it's why the public is leaning so heavily into the scandal. It feels too specific to be entirely made up, even in a world of viral fake news. The fallout within the industry is also becoming visible. Other celebrities are reportedly distancing themselves from Steve, making sure they aren't seen in photos with him or mentioning him in interviews. It's the Hollywood cold shoulder, and it's usually the first sign that a star is about to be retired by the powers that be. If Steve is seen as a liability to the clean image of the networks, he will be dropped faster than a contestant who gets a strike 3 on his own show. Brandy Harvey's alleged major bomb is still the center of gravity for this entire story. The public is waiting for her to go live, to post the video, to share the documents. The anticipation is building to a fever pitch, and every day that she remains silent only adds to the suspense. Is she negotiating a settlement, or is she just waiting for the perfect moment to ensure maximum impact? In the world of sensationalism, timing is everything. The freak-off culture was built on the idea that the people involved were too big to fail. They thought their fame and their money made them gods who didn't have to follow the rules of the mortals. But the mortals are now the ones with the smartphones and the internet connection, and they are tearing down the temples of these false gods one brick at a time. Steve Harvey might just be the biggest statue to fall. The picture is clear. Steve Harvey is surrounded. He has the feds on one side, the internet on the other, and his own daughter holding the match to the fuse. The DL rumors, the baby oil specialty, and the history of family neglect have all converged into a single point of crisis. There is no joke funny enough to save him now, and no suit sharp enough to hide the stains of his alleged past. The story is no longer about whether Steve Harvey has secrets. It is about how many of those secrets are about to become public record. The transition from a beloved icon to a cautionary tale is happening in real time, and we are all witnesses to the collapse of a television giant. The next stage of this fallout will involve the legal system and the ultimate consequences of a life lived on the down low. The transition from leaked rumors to the final phase of this investigation brings us to the inevitable fallout and the looming consequences that could change the entertainment industry forever. We are no longer just talking about whispers on social media. We are talking about the potential for institutional collapse. When a figure as massive as Steve Harvey is linked to federal probes and secret lifestyles, the ripple effect reaches every corner of the corporate world, from television networks to global advertising agencies. The whispers of legal action are growing louder by the minute as investigators suggest that certain gentlemen's agreements made in the shadows may have violated federal statutes. If Steve Harvey was indeed part of a ring that used intimidation or hush money to keep victims silent, the legal ramifications could involve racketeering charges that carry decades of prison time. Law and crime analysts are pointing out that being a witness is one thing, but being an active participant in the logistics of a freak-off is an entirely different legal beast. Hypothetical resignations are already being discussed in the high-rise offices of the major networks. The fear is that the Harvey brand has become radioactive, and no amount of damage control can scrub the stain of the DL allegations. We could be looking at a future where Family Feud is forced to find a new host overnight, as sponsors pull their funding to avoid being associated with a man who is being branded as the next big domino to fall in the Diddy investigation. The financial crisis within the Harvey estate is reportedly reaching a breaking point. Sources claim that Steve has been liquidating assets at an alarming rate to cover the rising costs of his high-powered legal defense team. There are rumors that even his most prized possessions, like his luxury car collection and private real estate holdings, are being put on the market quietly. This is the behavior of a man who knows a storm is coming and is trying to build a financial bunker before the lightning strikes. Government probes into the industry trades we mentioned earlier are also gaining momentum. There is a specific interest in how certain celebrities were able to maintain their clean images while engaging in such high-risk behavior. Investigators are looking for evidence of tax evasion related to the off-the-books spending required to maintain a secret double life. If Steve Harvey was using business accounts to fund his alleged baby oil excursions, he won't just be facing the court of public opinion, he'll be facing the IRS. The public backlash has reached a fever pitch, with protesters reportedly gathering outside his studio tapings. The family man image has been replaced by a hypocrite narrative that is impossible to ignore. People are no longer laughing at his jokes. They are analyzing his sweat patterns and his nervous stutters. The psychological toll on a man who craves public adoration must be immense, but the public has no sympathy for a mentor who they feel has led them astray for 30 years. Brandy Harvey's role in this final act is the most critical element of the fallout. If she decides to move forward with a formal deposition or a tell-all book, the damage will be permanent. Sources suggest she has already been approached by several major publishing houses offering 8-figure. Or the true story of the Harvey household. Her silence is the only thing standing between Steve and a total social blackout. Is she waiting for a specific legal trigger? Or is she just watching the world burn from the sidelines? We must also consider the potential for a massive class action lawsuit from the people who bought into his relationship advice empire. If it is proven that Steve was living a lie while selling honesty to millions of women, the legal grounds for fraud are substantial. Imagine a courtroom filled with thousands of people claiming they were scammed by a man who didn't practice a single word he preached. It would be the most sensational legal battle in the history of the 21st century. The DL culture itself is being put on trial through this scandal. The community is having a difficult but necessary conversation about why these powerful men feel the need to hide their true selves behind a wall of toxic masculinity. Steve Harvey has become the unwilling face of this crisis, a symbol of everything that is wrong with a system that rewards deception and punishes authenticity. The fallout isn't just about one man. It's about a culture that is finally being forced to look in the mirror. The tension within the industry is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Other celebrities who are part of the same circles are reportedly terrified that Steve will name names if he is backed into a corner. This is the snitch factor that keeps the elite up at night. If the baby oil specialist decides to take the whole ship down with him, we could see a total clearing of the Hollywood deck. Nobody wants to be the next person exposed by a leaked video or a daughter's testimony. The hypothetical probes into the Miss Universe pageant years are also resurfacing. Investigators are asking if the same patterns of behavior followed Steve to the international stage. Were there secret parties in exotic locations? Was the DL lifestyle a global operation? The scale of these questions is what makes this the most massive scandal of our time. It's not just a local problem. It's an international investigation into the misuse of power and fame. As we look at the potential for a total financial collapse, we have to mention the Marjorie factor. If the rumors of a business-first marriage are true, Marjorie might be planning her own exit strategy. In the world of high-stakes scandal, it's every person for themselves. If she sees the ship sinking, she might be the first one to jump into a lifeboat, taking a significant portion of the remaining fortune with her. The betrayal from within the house is often the most painful part of the fall. The public's anticipation for a final statement from Steve is at an all-time high. Every time he goes live or posts a photo, the world holds its breath, expecting a confession or a massive denial. But so far, we have only seen the silence of a man who is running out of options. That silence is being interpreted as a sign of guilt by the sensationalist crowd, who believe that an innocent man would have fought back by now. The freak-off connection to the Harvey name is now a permanent part of his digital footprint. Even if he is never officially charged, the search results for Steve Harvey will forever be linked to baby oil and Diddy. In the age of the internet, that is a life sentence in itself. His legacy has been rewritten in real time, and the new version is a dark, gritty reboot of the family man story we all thought we knew. The consequences for the new Harvey children, like Lori, are also significant. Her brand is built on being the ultimate it girl, but that brand is heavily subsidized by her father's influence and image. If that image is destroyed, her path to industry dominance becomes much more difficult. The sins of the father are being visited upon the children, and the entire family is feeling the heat of a spotlight they can no longer control. The investigation into the DL affairs has also triggered a broader look at the comedy world. People are asking how many other clean comedians have similar skeletons in their closets. This is the great unveiling that many predicted would happen after the fall of other major icons. Steve Harvey is just the most visible target in a landscape that is filled with hidden agendas and secret lives. The tension between the truth and the persona is what makes this story so addictive for the public. We are witnessing the deconstruction of a hero. It's a tragedy in 3 parts, and we are currently in the final scene. The DL rumors were the spark, the baby oil was the fuel, and Brandy Harvey is the one holding the torch. The resulting fire is visible from every corner of the world. There is no going back to the way things were. The networks know it, the advertisers know it, and deep down, Steve Harvey knows it. The game he has been playing for 30 years has reached its final round, and the scores are not in his favor. The public is ready for a new era of transparency, and they are willing to sacrifice their icons to get it. The final fallout will likely involve a quiet disappearance from the public eye. We might see a sudden retirement for health reasons or a desire to spend more time with family. But the internet will know the truth. They will know that the baby oil specialist was retired by the very secrets he tried to keep hidden. The exit will be as messy as the alleged parties themselves. As we conclude this deep dive into the Harvey scandal, the lesson is clear. No amount of fame can hide the truth forever. Whether it's a daughter's revenge or a federal investigation, the shadows always come to light. Steve Harvey's story is a cautionary tale for everyone in the industry who thinks they are above the law or above the truth. The collapse of the Harvey empire is a historic moment in pop culture. It marks the end of the untouchable icon era. From the DL whispers to the freak-off fears, every element has led us to this point of no return. The king of comedy is staring at an empty throne, and the silence from his biological children is the loud applause that follows his fall. The investigation ends here, but the consequences will last a lifetime. The baby oil professional has finally run out of oil, and the friction of the truth is about to burn everything he built to the ground. This is the final truth.